Hello, today we'll be looking at the anime Undead Murder Farce, so if you're ready, let's get into the recap. The arena waits in anticipation as Shinichi rises up to tackle a demon bolting towards him. Almost instantly, the crowd breaks into happy cheers once Shinichi overpowers the demon. The announcer lauds him with compliments, stating that he's the best Oni Slayer the world has ever seen. However, instead of basking in the glory, Shinichi exits the room and asks his employer about the creature he just eliminated. The fat man informs him that they're called Shokera. He goes on to say that there were some stragglers left in Chichibu after the Great Purge, so he acquired the monsters for cheap. Shinichi dryly says that it's amazing how he managed to get his hands on them under the strict authority. The man smirks and states that given the amount of monsters lurking in Tokyo, he can easily have grand performances every day. Hearing that, Shinichi politely says that he hasn't been living up to his expectations, to which the man mockingly tells him that he is no performer, but a monster. The following day, Shinichi walks around the village when he stumbles upon a crowd prying off a wild cat. Noticing Shinichi, a man tells him to kill the monster as he's an Oni Slayer. Inspecting the cat, Shinichi states that it's no monster and wards it away. The crowd expresses their displeasure by berating Shinichi. That night, after his fight, Shinichi catches a woman carrying a birdcage exiting from his room. A confrontation begins between the two in which Shinichi wins, causing the mysterious woman to apologize weakly. She states that the only reason why they started fighting was because he was coming for the birdcage. Unbothered, Shinichi inches closer to the woman to harm her, but she says that she knows he's only able to kill on stage. Stepping back, Shinichi remarks that she seems to know a thing or two about him. The woman picks up the birdcage and states that she knows how the blood of a demon that can kill any monster runs inside his veins, making him a hybrid of a human and demon. She goes on, telling him that since he was made so hastily, he won't be able to outrun the demon blood for long. Shinichi dryly says that since she knows too much, they'll have to resume their fight, but the woman stops him and says that she has means of extending his life, but he must do something for her. The veil on the birdcage lifts up, revealing the head of a woman who states that Shinichi must kill her. With that, she introduces herself as Aya, and the woman carrying her as her maid, Shizuku. Noticing how during their conversation, Shizuku never opened her mouth, Shinichi marvels that he thought she was using some fancy ventriloquism. Shinichi learns from Aya that she's immortal, the only one of her kind. Aya reveals that she has remained 13 years old for 900 years. As Shinichi asks Aya about the rest of her body, she explains that someone foolishly took it away 6 months ago. Considering that immortals usually regenerate their bodies, Shinichi deduces that Aya must have been wounded by a demon, as demons are the only beings capable of harming immortals. Aya further adds to the conversation by disclosing that she was attacked by a hybrid. Otherwise, she would have faced certain death. As the two continue their conversation, Aya notes that Shinichi desires to live and die at the same time. She elaborates by saying that the more he uses his powers, the stronger the demon gets, shortening his lifespan, and since he eagerly performs for the troop leader, it indicates his desire to die, yet during his fight with Shizuku, he fought to the bitter end when he could have just died. Shinichi then reveals that he wants to let the demon take control when he's fighting in the ring, so he can kill the lowlives and the troop leader that makes him perform. Being the odd fella he is, Shinichi tells Aya that instead of killing her, he wants to help her find the rest of her body. When she asks why he's so keen on helping her live, Shinichi discloses that it seems like the man who did this to her is responsible for making him a freak. Aya reveals that to hunt the man, they'll have to travel to Europe. After coming to terms, the two seal the deal by swapping spits that also granted Shinichi the longevity he needed. Jean Touché Godard discards his rifle and relies on his natural instincts to hunt down a deer. Upon return, his son, Raoul, asks him why he took the rifle only to discard it later. Jean reveals that he wanted to practice using it as it implies they're meeting humanity halfway. Raoul counters him by saying that ever since Count Dracula was taken out, the humans have treated them harshly. Jean tells him that this is why they must cooperate with humanity now more than ever. As they return to their mansion, Jean realizes that something is amiss and tells his kids to stick beside him. Soon enough, he finds his wife sitting in a pool of blood. The following day, news of Lady Godard's killing makes headlines, and Jean finds himself surrounded by a swarm of news reporters. As he tries to navigate his way through the nosy reporters, a young Annie Kerber throws questions at him. In a resentful tone, Jean tells everyone that he's offended by the police who inspected his wife's murder. He goes on to say that his family hasn't broken the alliance, and vents out about not drinking human blood for 20 years and attending church. When Annie asks him about how he will proceed with the case, Jean replies that he is going to hire detectives specializing in monster cases. Hearing that, Annie quickly realizes that Jean is talking about Shinichi and Aya. Shortly after that, Shinichi enters the Godard mansion and introduces himself as the infamous cage user. While investigating, Aya deduces that Hannah's death was swift and done through a stake. She also inquires about the silver stake in their house, and Jean informs her that the slightest touch of silver can burn their skin. That's why his human slave, Alfred, safely placed the stake in the storehouse that was taken from a hunter that attacked him previously. After going through all the evidence, Aya tells Jean that the murderer was within his walls. While dining with Shinichi and Aya, Raoul expresses his mistrust of the detectives, branding them as odd and untrustworthy. Jean tells him that Shinichi and Aya might be peculiar, but they certainly seem to get the job done. Their carriage driver then asks Aya how she was able to figure out that he has a wife. Aya skillfully tells him that she has noticed his replaced buttons and carefully scrubbed waistcoat that all hint towards a caring wife. Hearing her speculations, Jean's elder son, Claude, compares Aya's expertise to the great Sherlock Holmes. Aya then shifts her focus on Jean and inquires about the events that took place on the day Hannah was murdered. As Jean recounts the events, Aya proceeds to inquire everyone about their activities. Rattled by the questions, Raoul asks her whether she thinks they murdered Hannah. Aya blankly affirms their suspicions, stating that she does believe that one of them murdered Hannah. After hearing everyone's testimony, Aya states that the only ones without an alibi are Claude and Alfred. After dinner, Aya tells Shizuku to keep a close eye on the human servants, Alfred and Gazelle. Executing Aya's orders, Shizuku keeps Alfred and Gazelle occupied while Aya and Shinichi accompany Jean outside. There, Jean inquires about the immortal, and Aya reveals that only a demon can kill the immortal. However, it doesn't make them invincible, and they were hunted down by the humans during the Great Purge. During their conversation, an arrow strikes Jean, but the wound quickly heals. Jean announces that while he may not attack humans first, he still remains the king of monsters, and swiftly tackles the man. As he's about to kill him, Shinichi and Aya stop him, stating that he's not the one that killed his wife, like he believes. When Jean tries to protest, Aya tells him that the man is covered in soot, indicating that he has just arrived from the train. She shifts her attention to the man and inquires his name. The man reveals his name as Joseph and pleads for mercy. During the interrogation, Joseph also confesses that he came to avenge his fellow hunter, Hugo, who was killed by Jean. Jean cuts him off, stating that Hugo was the one who attacked him first. When Aya asks him about Hugo, Joseph tells him that he tried to stop him from hunting down Jean. However, Hugo seemed fairly confident that he would win, as he told him that he has a reliable alliance by his side. Aya gathers everyone in a room and states that she will now tell them how one of them murdered Hannah. She begins by saying that while inspecting Hannah's murder, she was left with 7 puzzles. The first being, there wasn't any evidence of struggle. Secondly, the attack didn't take place during the day when a vampire's powers wane away. Third, a still usable bottle was left on the scene. Fourth, the murderer seemed to know his way around the mansion. Fifth, the murderer left the silver stake in the storage room. Aya concludes that these reasons make it impossible for an outsider to attack Hannah. Continuing, Aya brings up her 6th point. Even though Hannah was killed with a stake, no one heard anything. Aya explains that it's because the killer didn't use a regular silver stake. Instead, they used something similar. Aya brings everyone's attention towards the 7th point, stating that the murderer deliberately put a glass bottle near the crime scene to make it look like holy water was used. However, upon close inspection, they realized the bottle had been dirty from inside, which implies that there was no liquid in the bottle. But since traces of holy water were found on Hannah's body, it could only mean that she was killed by frozen holy water in the shape of a stake. Aya continues that the murderer used the weapon as Hannah slept in her chair. As the holy water melted, Hannah's body began to burn. After the murder was committed, the murderer collected the blood, and once Jean had gone hunting, he placed the blood on the stake in the storeroom and made it look like an outsider had committed the crime. Aya then reveals that only Raoul fulfills the conditions of the murderer, as he didn't have an alibi before he went hunting with Jean. Moreover, only he has the power to commit the murder. Raoul raises up stating that he could have never touched the holy water as it would burn his fingers. Aya counters him by saying that he chopped his fingers that were burned, and thanks to a vampire's regenerating abilities, he outgrew new ones. Aya's theory proves true as Raoul lunges to attack her. Shinichi quickly guards Aya, and the two take the fight outside where Raoul reveals that he didn't like how his father listened to his mother and succumbed to the humane ways which goes against their natural tendencies. So he decided to orchestrate Hannah's murder to frame humans so Jean could finally snap out of it. The fight continues until Shinichi finally kills Raoul. After the job, Aya asks Jean if he knows about an old man that carries a cane with the letter M embellished on it. Jean reveals that a certain man fitting the description came to his mansion. He introduced himself as Professor and asked him to join him in London. However, he had to decline his offer due to family commitments. As Aya and Shinichi make their way to leave, Annie asks them about the case, and Shinichi brazenly reveals how Raoul murdered his mother in cold blood. A man named Eric finds himself in a warehouse with his arms tied. As he struggles in his chair, a mysterious man greets him by his real name, making Eric question how he knows his name. The man smugly says that he knows a great lot of things, like he was born in Persia with a disfigured face, and due to his powerful voice, he was nicknamed as the Phantom of the Opera. When Eric asks him the reason for his kidnapping, the man reveals that he stole him and a ruby because he doesn't want him to rot as a mere stage prop. Tired of his bluff, Eric asks him to state his real reasons. The man discloses that he is planning on stealing the penultimate night. Stunned by the revelation, Eric reminds him that his quest might be hard to achieve as the Phileas Fogg's mansion where the penultimate night is kept impenetrable, and moreover, Sherlock Holmes will prove quite a hindrance in his way. Not being the one to back off, the man introduces himself as Arsène Lupin and asks Eric that if he lets him go, what will he do? Eric gets up and states that since he was stolen, he will just have to follow his master's orders. Being a gentleman and a conniving thief, Lupin dispatches a warning letter to Phileas Fogg, stating his arrival and his intentions to steal the silver safe and the penultimate night. News about the notorious thief arriving in London quickly spreads through the headlines. Detectives from all across the world make their way to London in hopes of foiling Lupin's plans. Meanwhile, Shinichi and Aya also make their way to London, where they are seen stealing a client list from the Horn's Cane shop. They bump into two men who ask them to return the list. Just when a fight is about to break down, the police capture them all. Inside the carriage, a set of twins try to plead their innocence, but Aya quickly calls them out by saying they were definitely present on the scene to steal something. The man from earlier joins the conversation by saying that they were stealing ceramics as their nails are dirty. Shocked, the twins admit to stealing the ceramics. It doesn't take the policeman to realize they are sitting with none other than the great Sherlock Holmes, his partner, John Watson, and Aya, a credible monster detective from Japan. Upon realizing, the police take them to the Fogg's mansion, along with Inspector Lestrade. Upon their arrival, Phileas Fogg's butler, Passepartout, shows them around the mansion. During a formal meeting with Phileas Fogg, Passepartout reveals that Inspector Ganimard from France will also be joining them, and Royce will be sending 2 agents from their advisory security department. Elsewhere, Lupin expresses how it'll be troublesome for them to commit the heist with Royce sending their agents. Eric learns that Royce is an insurance company that'll protect its clients with its full might. On that note, Agent Reinhold and Fatima join Fogg's party. He then takes everyone to witness the one-of-a-kind safe and the penultimate night. At Sherlock's place, Watson comes to greet Sherlock when all of a sudden, Mycroft arrives and astutely discerns the person before him is an imposter, urging them to drop the act. When Sherlock asks Mycroft what makes him say that, Mycroft reveals that for one, he knows that his brother doesn't have long nails, and 2, because he was with Sherlock. Right on that cue, Sherlock walks in. Lupin tears off his guise and greets Sherlock. In the meantime, Shinichi and Shizuku realize that they have made a terrible mix-up as the birdcage they have been carrying does not contain Aya's head. Lupin casually opens a lock of a treasure box in Sherlock's place and states that since a man like Fox could operate the safe, then so can he. When Sherlock asks him what makes him so confident, Lupin reveals that all locks contain a key. With that, he dives out of the window and into his carriage, promising to meet him again. While riding in his carriage, Lupin bumps into Shizuku and offers her a ride. Meanwhile, Mycroft reveals that the agents of Royce are known for their hatred for monsters, and since the penultimate night is the key to finding werewolves, they will probably try to steal the diamond for themselves and let Lupin have the fall. In the meantime, Aya finds herself captured by the twins that plan on selling her. However, their plan goes down the drain when Shizuku and Shinichi stop their carriage. After securing Aya, the group quickly learns that they are among the presence of Lupin and the Phantom. Lupin also recognizes them as the detectives from Japan, causing a fight to break down between Shinichi and Lupin, which ultimately results in Lupin's win. Before leaving, Lupin tells Aya to drop the case. The following night, after Ganimard's arrival from France, Sherlock seals the door by breaking the locks on the chamber where the safe is kept. Fox expresses his concerns of being locked away, but Sherlock assures him that a good locksmith will rescue them from their misery tomorrow, and reveals that it was necessary to break the locks as Lupin can't open a broken lock. In the meantime, Shinichi, Aya, and Shizuku guard the mansion from above, while the agents secure another part of the mansion. Once the clock strikes 11, the ground begins to shake and water begins to sweep in the chamber, causing everyone to panic. Fox asks Sherlock to keep his hands on the safe, but in that moment, Sherlock grimly states that it will be hard for them to protect the safe from underwater. That'll be it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Look forward to the second part, which will be out soon. We hope that you all have an amazing rest of your day.